features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning and welcome to Africa, where the dawn is just breaking, the animals are yawning, the birds are singing. This is Safari Life.
You are live, you are live.
Good morning and welcome on our sunrise safari. My name is Jamie and this morning Craig is on camera with me, and as I said, the dawn is just breaking. We've started our lights on, searching for all sorts of mysteries after the dark evening of last night. For those of you that have just joined us, we are coming to you live from a place called Djuma Private Game Reserve, which is in the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. So right up in the top northeastern corner of this beautiful country. For our regular viewers, send through your questions using the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. And most especially a very warm welcome to Karshalia School, joining us all the way from India. It is lovely to have you on board. I hope you're all excited to go on a live safari, because what you are seeing is happening right here and right now in South Africa. So send us through all the questions that you'd like to know about our wonderful wildlife out here. This morning I am searching for leopards. That is what I want to find this morning. Yesterday Taylor had the leopards that we have nicknamed the royal family. So a female whose territory is here and her two just over a year-old cubs, 13-month-old cubs. And we are off in search of them this morning to find out what they got up to during the evening. I know that Brent is on the hunt for lions. All in all, I think we've got a very, very exciting morning planned for you. The birds are just waking up. I'm just checking all the way around this area. It's one of this leopard's favorite spots. And it's also a very good spot to see something like hyena. This is an elephant roadblock, so they've obviously been through at some point in the evening, pushing the trees into the road. There we go. Whoa, starting off this morning with 3 little birdies, all in the road. Hello, little birds. These are bronze-winged coursers. Look at all 3 of them dashing along. Possibly 2 adults and a juvenile. The one on the right now looks a little bit smaller. But these are nocturnal birds. In the next few minutes they're going to start going to bed. And it's quite a nice, warm, muggy start this morning here in South Africa. It is, of course, just coming towards the end of our summer months. So it is around about, I've forgotten exactly what it is, I think it's 24 degrees centigrade, with quite a high level of humidity. So that's 74 in Fahrenheit for all of those of you that use the imperial system. Beautiful. Aren't they very, very pretty birds? Also known as the violet, I think it's a violet-tipped courser. I need to concentrate on finding these leopards, but it would be very rude for me not to allow Brent some time to say good morning, so let's head over to him.
Hello and welcome to the Karshalia School in India. Nice to have you with us. My name is Brent Smith. I have Dangerous Dave, the objectified dish on camera. The ladies love his dimples. But we are looking for lions at the moment. And we left them about 9 o'clock last night. They were still fast asleep just over there. And I'm hoping they've moved a little bit. And, well, there's always a chance of spotting a chameleon this early in the morning. But we are heading to sort of first light, where the spotlight becomes a little bit redundant. We're sort of in the half light at the moment. But guys, I'd love to have some questions from you. But to start off, because of course this is a school drive, and we're supposed to learn things. I didn't know that though. Do you know you're supposed to learn at school? Of course you're supposed to learn at school. So, I've got a question for you guys in India. What is the name of the Indian species of wild dog? What is the name of the Indian species of wild dog? I can't wait to hear your answers. So, of course, the wild dog we get in Africa is called the African wild dog, or the painted dog, or the painted wolf. What do you call the Indian wild dog? I cannot wait to hear from you. Now, of course, it's still a bit too dark for our bushwalk to go out, but they'll be getting out as soon as it's a little bit lighter. They don't want to trip over a lion's tail and get eaten, but hopefully we manage to find the lions before then. Well, it's very early in the morning here in Africa, but I'm not sure what time it is in India. But so what time is it in India? What time do you think it is, Dave? Midday? 11 o'clock? Midday. I don't know. Oh, it's 9 a.m. It's 9 a.m. Well, you guys should be more awake than we are. So where are my questions? Now, it is of course possible the lions have not moved an inch. The spotlight is redundant now, and they're still sleeping in the same place. I'm hoping that they've gone out on the hunt, and we might see them on the move. So as I'm driving, I'm looking very carefully at the road. I'm looking for the footprints of lions. Not quite as big as the footprints of tigers, but there's generally more of them, which makes them a bit easier to spot. So, lion is the second largest big cat in the world. Well done, guys. You are definitely a smart class. A dhole is the Indian equivalent of the African wild dog. Now, I really want to get to India to go see a dhole, an Indian rhinoceros, an Asian elephant, a tiger. So it is definitely on my bucket list, and I do love animals so much, and India is one of the places that I've got to get to in the next couple of years. So I've done quite a lot of research into the Indian wildlife, and India is one of the few places where you have two species of leopards, not just one. You of course got your normal Asiatic leopard, which is very similar and very close in genetics to the same leopards we get out here. But of course, in the Himalayas and the mountain regions, you have the snow leopard, which is one of the rarest big cats in the world. Hello, impalas. Well, they're not actually impalas, they're impalas. But they look like they were looking at something. No, they're not, they're just waking up. So we're getting into the area where the lions were last night. So that is an impala antelope, the most numerous antelope in Africa, and also one of the most successful species in Africa, one of the best generalists around. Now, can you believe they've been in that exact same form for 1.6 million years? They're more ancient than elephants, they're more ancient than lions, they're more ancient than human beings. Very successful. There has been no need to evolve further because they're just so darn good at being a generalist. They can eat grass, they can eat leaves, they can live through multiple habitats, from the edges of the deserts to the edges of the forests. So a very, very important species. And of course, they get eaten by everything. Lions, leopards, wild dogs, hyenas, cheetah, all love a bit of a rare impala. Okay, so I'm going to concentrate a bit heavily on the road to see if I can see tracks of those lions. And before we go off, who can tell me what area of India is the only place that has lions outside Africa? While you ponder that, let's go see what Jamie's up to and how her search for leopards is going.
So while Brent concentrates carefully in terms of trying to find find the leopards. Oh, it seems to be quite a dark and misty morning. I wonder, that's what's making looking for leopards a bit more tricky. This sort of low level of light. So what I've actually done is I've stayed away from the area where those leopards were last night, because I don't want to drive over any of the tracks in the dark. Because unlike an elephant or a lion or a rhino, leopards walk with a very, very light step, and it's much, much harder to track them. So that's my plan, is to try and move swiftly and silently through the bush, but only when it's a little bit lighter. And of course this cloud and this mist is making things a bit more difficult. One of the things that we are looking to do is try to relocate those leopards. Now, they were just over here, just ahead of me, and I'm checking the southern boundary because this is one of the sort of the highways that the animals use. And they do that one of the reasons they do that is because it's just nice and quiet when they walk on the roads. They also, especially on a morning like this morning where it's quite humid and muggy, they don't really feel like walking through the grass and getting all wet. They'll do it, but it's much quieter and much simpler for them to walk on the roads. And a big road like this is kind of a highway for the different animal species to wander around. I can hear the birds just starting to wake up, though it is getting light enough for us to slowly continue on our way. Here's a grey-headed bush shrike in the background, and I can hear Cape turtle doves as well. Okay, well, we'll turn around and go back and search towards Treehouse Dam. Shabam, you want to know if there are any animals that are found in Africa that are not found in India. And there are definitely certain animals rhino and something called a black rhino. I dream one day of visiting India and seeing a greater one-horned rhino on that side. One of the things, sorry, apparently your screen's ever so briefly, but never mind. We are back once again. You wanted to know what animals. I would really love to see a greater one-horned rhino on your side. We get a white rhino and a black rhino in South Africa, so a completely different set of species than the ones that you get. We get different types of primates, different types of baboons, and our antelope are different as well. We get different types of antelope out here. Giraffe, another animal that we get in Africa. Do you get any zebra in India? I don't think so. I don't think there are any zebra in India, are there? So zebra, there's lots of different species. But of course, some of our species are very similar. Lions, I know Brent was quizzing you about lions. We've got leopards, and our leopards are very similar to yours in that they also make use of various urban areas, various cities, and those sorts of things. I'm sure you're excited to find out how Brent's lion search is going. Let's head over to him.
Well, we are first checking the peripheries of where we left them, making sure they haven't moved off too far. But so far, no tracks of the lions, which is a good thing. It means they could be still sleeping in the thicket we left them in. Sorry, I need to be on the radio. Morning Rex, one station following up on Nkuhuma Pride of Lions, one station following up on Krula and Mampimpan. Philemon's Dip and Vertical Axis have been the routes. Okay, so we've got lots of other vehicles out, and they're also looking for animals. Jamie went that way. I'm on Vuatila. So I'm telling them the names of the roads we've looked. So we're making sure that everyone covers the most distance possible so we can all find the most animals possible and we can all have the best game drive. Now, I asked you where... there we go. Well done, everyone. Yes, it is indeed the Asiatic lion, or the Indian lion, is found in Gujarat in India, and it is found in one specific national park called the Gir Forest National Park. Now, there's been some very interesting discussions about the Asiatic lion over the last few years. Now, of course, there was a land bridge between Africa and Asia that the last time it was open was about 30,000 years ago. And lions used to occur all the way from France through Europe up into the southern parts of Russia. One of the last European countries to have lions living in it was Turkey, through the Middle East into Asia. Now, whether those lions became distinct, because there is a theory by certain biologists that the current population of Asiatic lions in Gujarat is actually from the... let me turn that down. Is actually from sort of escaped lions or lions that used to be part of the old Maharaja's menageries. But they're waiting on genetic testing. Hyena tracks. So they're waiting on genetic testing to see whether the Asiatic lion is directly from menageries. So they would have been caught in mostly North Africa, Morocco, Egypt, and then given as presents to the Maharajas, and then over time the menageries were let go or escaped, or whether they are a complete unique set of lions that have managed to survive in Asia. So genetics will be able to tell us that. So originally it was thought that there were up to 9 or 10 subspecies of lions in Africa, and that's not including the Indian or Asiatic lion. And it's been disproved through genetic testing over the last 15 years or so. That they are probably only, and so they're not even full subspecies, but they call them clades. There's a western and eastern clade of lions, and even though there are two clades, they do cross over and interbreed. So the western clade obviously is the western side of Africa, and the eastern clade is the eastern side of Africa. So we at the moment are in the far east of South Africa, so we are looking for the eastern clade. Genetically, very, very little difference. The eastern clade seems to be, on average, a little bit physically bigger. Now, a lot of the subspecies of lions that were thought to exist because they had bigger manes, no manes, etc., turn out to be just local variances of a lion. So, if you want to make it a bit simpler, if we take what animal is going to be the easiest? Well, you can take the same species of cow, and you have one that lives in a hot area and its fur will be quite thin, and then you have one that lives up in the mountains where it's very cold, and for some reason they will have thicker fur or more fur. So it's just a local variance or a local reaction to the local surroundings. So whether it's cold or hot, or so often lions that live in deserts seem to have much bigger manes, and the reason is that is actually to protect them not only from fighting, which most male lions, that's the main reason for having a big mane, but it's also to protect them from sandstorms and things like that. So it's a local variance or reaction to local climates that can cause those. And now over time those can become distinct genetic differences, but in terms of lions it's just a lion that's got more hair. So like Dave's got more hair than anyone else in camp, and that's because the ladies like it, and the rest of us have less hair than Dave. So it's a local variance to Dave's local surroundings. So Dave is of course the cameraman, if you forgot, but he's hiding all his hair at the moment under a beanie. But I've got some exciting news. It's a little bit more light, which means no, we're staying with us, and I've spotted some elephants. So right down there. It's a good thing I've got good eyes because Dave can't see those. There's an elephant walking down the road. Well, I'm going to try to get a bit closer to that elephant. Then we'll come back and look for the lions. Now it's very possible that the elephants have chased the lions overnight. Elephants don't like lions, and everyone thinks lions are the king of the jungle. They are not. The elephant is. Now, the one problem with having lots of elephants around in an area where you're looking for lions is elephants might have walked over the lion's footprints, and their footprints are bigger than lions, so it makes it even harder to see. Oh, the elephants have had a party on the road. You can see there's poop everywhere, tracks everywhere. Oh. Okay, are you ready? We're holding on. Let's get close to those elephants. Okay, now while we try to catch up with these elephants that have had a big party on the road, let's go and meet Stef, who's actually walking around in the bush.
Good morning, and yes, welcome to the bushwalk part of this particular safari on this fantastic morning, and very different it is. My name is Stef, and I say it's different because look at the color that's around here. It's just this big grayness, and it's because we've got some cloud this morning, which while hasn't been uncommon in the last couple of weeks, in the last couple of months, definitely is an unexpected surprise. Yesterday was very, very hot, way up in the 30 degrees, probably close on 40 degrees Celsius, and in Fahrenheit terms it's into the 90s. And I woke up this morning feeling very tingly all over the place. I definitely got sunburnt on myself. Now right now it's about 74 degrees Fahrenheit, about 24 degrees Celsius, and it's literally not even 6 o'clock in the morning yet. So thankfully for these clouds, otherwise I think today is going to be one of those other cookers for today. What are we going to do today? Quite simply, we're going to try and follow up where we left off yesterday afternoon. For those of you who are only joining us now, I had one of my most epic walks that I've ever had yesterday. We spent almost the entire afternoon, at least an hour and 20 minutes, with a leopard in a tree, and we were standing there, yes, we were standing there 30 or 40 yards from it. It was sleeping in a tree, didn't even bother that we were there. Now, it is the 13-month cub of a leopard that we've got living in this particular area. And she, as we left, the mom was roaring in the distance, and then Taylor found her, and she's been hunting. So our plan for now is to go and follow up where we left off, where they left off yesterday, and see if that leopard has managed to kill something for her babies. That's at least the plan anyway. They get hijacked here quite a lot, and so, you know, we'll see what happens. Now, Manzi, you just asked me if you can find anacondas here. Manzi, unfortunately not. We don't have anacondas here. Anacondas are restricted to South America. And what we do have in its place, though, is pythons. The African rock python is our largest snake. It gets about that big, which is about as big as your leg. So if you take your leg at the thickest part of your leg and you feel the thickest part of your leg, that is as thick as the thickest snake gets over here, and about 6 meters long. So I think from here to that tree is 6 meters. 5, 6, yes. So from where you are to this tree where I'm standing right now. That is the longest snake that we have in South Africa, here at the tip of the African continent and in this place. Have I ever seen a snake this big? No, I haven't seen a snake this big. I've seen some that come pretty close, 4 meters, 4.5 meters, and literally big enough to swallow an impala, which is about as big as a goat, a really big goat. That's about as big as the snake that we get now. Right, we're going to carry on with our search for this leopard, and hopefully she's got a kill this morning and we can show you. Brent has in the meantime found some elephant for you.
There we go, we've caught up with the herd of elephants, but unfortunately they're quite highly mobile into quite a thick area. There we go, that's a young elephant, probably about 8 or 9 years old. Now, those of you who've seen Asian elephants in India will see these guys look quite different, and they are the biggest species of elephant in the world, the African savanna elephant. Let's try and get a bit closer. We'll try, but it is quite thick in here. So there's probably about 35 or 40 elephants in this herd. Oh, there's another one this side. You got it? There we go. Hopefully going to walk right up towards us. Now they're able to eat, a big elephant can eat nearly 200 kilograms of vegetation in a day. And everyone always assumes that elephants only eat trees. But at this time of the year, elephants' favorite food is grass. So in the summer months, in our wet season, elephants eat about 80% of their diet consists of grass and only 20% of trees and leaves and branches. But as soon as we get to the dry season, that diet changes. Oh, there's another one. Hello. Big female. Their diet changes completely, and they will swap and eat 80% leaves and branches and only 20% grass. Hello, big girl. So as long as you drive carefully and respectfully around these animals, they can be really close to us, like she's doing at the moment. So she's not concerned with us. She's probably about 2 meters from us. Oh, and she's found some nice lush grass that she's after there. And off she goes. It's a big female. Oh, another one about to pop out right in front of us. That's a younger female, teenage female. Hello, girls. Now, the big adult elephant bulls don't actually spend much time with the females. They will spend most of their time away from the big herds until it's a time for mating. Now, elephants have a very interesting mating system because they have to be, a female has to be in estrus and the male has to be in a heightened hormonal state called must before they will mate. And you can see those massive ears. It's one of the ways to age elephants. So you can see how, if you look at an elephant from behind, how the skin is flapping over like that. So their cartilage, which is what keeps their ears rigid, is always one size, and their skin keeps growing. So when we look at the top part of the ears, you can see that the flappier and longer the skin is on the inside, the older the elephant is. So she's an adult. I'd say she's probably around between maybe around 40 years old. And you can see those massive veins on the inside of their ears. Now that's what enables elephants to be very active during very hot periods. So basically their ears are a big set of air conditioners. So they can have up to 8 liters of blood in their ears, and when they flap their ears, that blood gets cooled, and then they pump the cooled blood through the rest of the body. So that's why they can operate in very hot climates and during the middle of the day. Now the reason they need this special adaptation is because they also doesn't like that, throw it away, is because they need to be able to eat for probably about 18 hours a day, because they are so big and they don't have the best digestive system. They only digest effectively about 60% of what they eat, so they need that big air conditioning system to be able to move throughout the heat of the day. There's over 100,000 muscles in an elephant's trunk that enables them. Oh, more elephants crossing in front of us, but there we go. Shabam's wondering, will these elephants attack me? It's always a possibility. So one thing what we do when we're spending time with elephants and get so close to elephants is we have to read their body language. Just how you read a human being's body language or a domestic dog's body language. There are signs that will tell us that they are upset, and if they are upset, we try to give them a nice wide berth. But at the moment, these are very relaxed elephants. They're showing no sign of aggression. Their tails are down. That's one of the important things. There's no lifting of the head or stiffening of the leg tendons. So there is always a possibility they will attack us. But this particular herd is nice and relaxed and has no interest in us, only interest in their breakfast. You see those ears flapping, although they don't really need the air conditioning now. It's still early in the morning and quite cool. Oh, there's a little elephant argument happening somewhere. Let's go see what's happening. Amanya says, how can I tell how old they are? So it's quite easy to tell how old they are when they're young, or when they're very... There we go. There's the noisy little one. Just playing. Got left behind by the rest of the herd and then got a bit of a fright. Okay, so sorry, and I got distracted by the elephant that was moving around, and as I said, it's quite easy to age them when they're young. So there's very specific sort of sizes they get to. But, oh, more coming out. As they get older, it becomes more difficult. But one of the ways is to judge how much skin has grown over the cartilage in the ears. And I'll show you a quick picture when it comes to aging little elephants. That makes it much easier. There we go. So if it's small enough to fit under mom's tummy, it's a year or younger. So that one there. And then you can see the different sizes. So that one over there is about 2 years old when they're about that big, about 6 years old, 15 years old, a teenager, and then when they're nice and big like that big female we saw in adults. But once they're adults, until they get very old where they start getting sunken skin, it's very difficult to tell the age of an adult. So we always just guess. So between 30 and 40, between 40 and 50. So we're going to leave these elephants, let them carry on with their breakfast, and we're going to go see if we can find those lions. While we do that, Jamie's got a striped donkey.
I do indeed. So we haven't found our leopards, our spotted cats, but we have found something stripy in the form of a herd of zebra that are keeping a close eye on us, watching us, and you can see the tails swishing to get rid of any of the biting flies and ticks. There goes the rest of the herd. Oh, panic for no reason, all galloping across. And you might, if you were paying close attention, have also seen a blue wildebeest, which is a species of antelope that we get out here that you often see with a herd of zebra. They spend quite a bit of time together. It makes the wildebeest feel a bit more safe because there's more eyes. And also they eat different parts of the same grass. So the zebra can come through and chomp the bits on the top, and then the wildebeest can come through afterwards and get to the nice fresh green shoots at the bottom. And these zebras looking very happy that we've had some rain and that the grass is nice and green. There's nothing more picturesque than a herd of zebra. And this probably consists of one stallion and his herd of mares. So one male and then the rest are females and related foals. I've seen one or two young zebra. They are just a little bit shorter than the adults. So they're not new babies, but they are quite young. Let's see if we can try and get a bit closer and get a slightly better view since they're all disappearing behind the bush. I'm just going to let my engine run for a little bit so that we don't startle them. And then slowly inch forward. We don't want them to run away from us. They're not as relaxed as our lions and our leopards and our elephants. Hi guys. Together. There's one very pregnant female that is leading the group, and you can see they're all gathered together cropping the really yummy that's growing there. And I think the flies are bad this morning. You can see the tails all swishing frantically, and every now and again one of them kicks at its side in irritation. So reading, I know Brent was talking about reading elephant's body language. Reading zebra's body language is very similar to reading that of a horse. You're watching the way in which they move, where their ears are. And zebra can actually be quite vicious animals. Their hierarchy between the females is very strictly controlled. So they have a leader, a main female, and she will lead the group. And if any of the females get out of place, she will kick them and bite them to remind them where they belong. Now, this is probably the stallion moving behind them. Here he comes to catch up with the rest of his ladies. Here we go. And just like that, they have disappeared into the bush. Definitely one of the most picturesque animals that we get out here. I just want to pay a quick visit to a very special place that we know of that's just around the corner. So let us see if we can start making our way in that direction. Oh, I know that Stef is going to help us look for those leopards, which is a really good idea, because on these cloudy days, to see the tracks of leopards. Let's go and find out how their search is going.
Our search for the leopard is ongoing. We haven't quite gotten into the area where we left her last, but we're on our way, so it's not too much of a problem. In the meantime, I wanted to show you this interesting plant, which is to the road where we're at. This is a solanum, and this particular species gets a bright yellow fruit about this big. But what's most interesting about the fruit, and while it's yellow and you cook it, you can eat it. The green fruit, of which there's none on this particular plant, is particularly poisonous, and you can't eat it. And the poison that is present in this particular plant is the same poison that's present in a green potato, the shoot on a green potato. Now, this is a bit of information that you may or may not know, but when you leave your potatoes in the vegetable basket at home and they start growing on their own after a few days, they get that little green shoot on the top. That there is very poisonous. You can't eat that green shoot, and please don't eat it. But that poison that's in your potato, in your vegetable basket, in your house all over the world, is the same poison that the green fruit of this particular plant, and has a nasty effect, as far as I understand it, on your heart's ability to pump well. And so that is what this is. the Solanum pandiiforme, or the, as we call it in the local language here, the gif appeltjie, which means the poison apple. And that's because the green fruit looks very similar to a green apple. I'm going to see if I can find you one over here. It's a fairly common plant around this time of the year. Something that is not poisonous is this little flower here, and one of my favorites. This is the Commelina. Now I have got a bit of a handshake, so excuse this going crazy. I'm trying my best to try and hold the plant as still as I can. This is the blue Commelina, and just have a look at how exquisitely detailed that flower is. Now in this particular case, you can imagine that the bright yellow male parts of the flower are all covered in pollen, and that bright yellow on blue background is what attracts the insects to it. And what will happen then is the insects come along and get dusted by the pollen on those yellow parts of the flower. They then go and visit another flower, and these two spikes, I'm going to see if I can get my hand out of the way, these two here, that one there and that one there, are the female parts of the flower. And as the insect goes from one plant to another, they will dust off their pollen on those female parts of the flower. Now a pollen grain, one pollen grain, which will be tiny, tiny, microscopic almost, will travel down this tube. I'm going to turn it slightly sideways, you can see this. Will travel down this tube into the middle of this flower and will pollinate the ovary, and then a seed will form. Isn't that amazing? Just look at the detail on that. Flowering plants, of course, one of the more modern of the plants. Them and grasses are where plants have evolved to. Very, very cool, eh? And now that I've picked this plant and it's obviously going to die, the best thing is to utilize it, and so they make quite a nice salad as well. So I don't want to waste some breakfast salad this morning in the form of a blue Commelina flower. Ananya, it's a good thing that you've asked me this question, because it's one of the things that I like looking for. You've asked me, do we find hippos and alligators here in Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sand, right here in South Africa? Yes, we do find hippos. No, we don't find alligators. Alligators are very similar to the anacondas, restricted.
Well, we're still looking for those lions, and we're just making sure they haven't wandered wandering vicious this morning. That's what happens when you wake up at 4 AM. And so there's no sign of them coming out. So what we're going to do next is we're probably going to head to where I had them at about 9 o'clock last night, unless we see a footprint first. Now, I was saying that the African elephant is bigger than the Asian elephant. So the biggest recorded ever Asian elephant is around 7 tons and 3.4 meters at the shoulder. The biggest recorded African elephant is 11 tons and over 4.5 meters at the shoulder. So quite a bit bigger. Now in India, as my understanding, most of the elephants live in forests, and as you can see, this isn't a forest we're driving around in. And what happens is it's because of people, hello Impala, that the Asian elephants tend to live in the forests mostly and only come out of those forests at night. And it's because of human pressure, because they would normally prefer to live in the savannas or grasslands. So, nice to have the Impala here, because that's a good alarm system for us. So if the lions come anywhere near here, the Impala will snort at them. They'll go pff, pff, pff. And basically in Impala language it means lion, lion, careful, lion. Oh, and they are very fast. Last one, off they go. Okay, so still no sign of the lions yet. which is a good thing, which means they could be still sleeping in the same spot we had them yesterday. Now, lions are quite lazy. They sleep about 18 hours a day. Oh, sorry, I lied. That's leopards. They sleep 20 hours a day. And if they've got nice full bellies, they can sleep for 24 hours a day. So it all depends. And the way we find most of the animals here is by looking at their footprints and then following those footprints till they're attached, or not attached, but quite fresh. Darby, our antennas, there we go, thank you. Now, these lions are being quite tricky at the moment. Because I think they had a fight with another pride of lions, so they're being quite sneaky. So sleeping in the thickets where they're feeling a bit safe. Now, let's think. So most of your buck species in India are deer, and out here we have antelope. There's only one species of indigenous deer to Africa, and it's the red deer, and it only occurs in Morocco in the Atlas Mountains. But who can tell me the main difference between deer and antelope? I would love to hear from you. What is the main difference between deer and antelope? See, this is fun. I get to be like a teacher. No one would ever let me be a teacher, but today I'm the teacher. Okay, no sign of the lions on any of these roads, so let's go into the thickets where they were last night. And I'm sure quite a few of you are wondering what this big ball of things over there is. And it is a virtual reality rig. So if any of you have ever played with virtual reality, when you put the goggles on, you look around and see everything around you, that's what that's for. So we're trying to do some virtual reality wildlife at the moment. Well, it seems like you guys are going to have to tell your teacher the answer to what's the difference between deer and antelope, because my teaching days are now done. Till next time, of course. So, to the Queershire School, thanks for joining us. Always great to have you on the back. And we will see you next time. But for the rest of you who's staying on board, let's go see what Jamie's up to.
Well, there we go, and back to our normal, in theory, sunrise safari. And thank you to all of you who are still with us, and please do send through your questions on #SafariLive on Twitter. So just an update from my side. Wendy doesn't really want to go where the leopards were before. Wendy is the vehicle that I'm driving, not somebody. Wendy is the vehicle. Now, Wendy doesn't seem to want, at the moment, to go to where the leopards were yesterday, which is most peculiar because Taylor was on Wendy yesterday where the leopards were. But it seems as though Wendy's having a little bit of a tantrum, so I went to go check the hyena den, and nobody's home. No sign of Ribbon, and the cubs are obviously fast asleep inside. Lots and lots of tracks up and down, which makes me think that the rest, maybe a couple of the members of the rest of the clan came to visit at some point. I don't know where Ribbon's wandered off to, presumably to go and get herself some food. I'm going to check for the royal family here, in the vain hope that, seeing as Wendy seems to be functioning on this road, in the hope that perhaps she might pop out here. What are these squirrels up to? The two of them were together a moment ago. There they are there, Craig. You got them. There we go, well done. There's only one now. Eating grass seeds. And having a lovely time doing it. Nibbling away. That's nice. Not often we get squirrels to sit still for this long. That is a second squirrel behind it, isn't it? Or is that... There's a second squirrel. So that means there were 3 gathered there. I think that is a second squirrel. Either that or this one has the biggest tail and weirdest shaped tail in the world. No, that's definitely a second squirrel. Eating grass seeds while they can. Getting as much in the way of nutrients in them before our dry season approaches. Yep, definitely a second one. Actually a baby one. Not a baby, but a young squirrel. That's obviously still with Mum and Dad. Not Dad. Dad doesn't play much of a role, just Mum. That's very cute. We hardly ever get to see baby squirrels. Most of the time they spend their sort of early weeks tucked away in hollows of trees. And I wonder, this is almost exactly, look, it's playing about in the branches. This is almost exactly where we saw that rock monitor being attacked by a squirrel as it was crawling up a dead tree. I wonder whether this isn't the family of squirrels, and perhaps that was a mother trying to protect her babies from a marauding rock monitor lizard. A rock monitor will most definitely eat a baby squirrel. They are ferocious predators. Bounce, bounce, bounce. Back to Mum. Hello, Mum. That's definitely her baby. I think it is. It's too much of a coincidence. We're right next to where I saw it. I suspect that this is what this little precious bundle is what Mum was trying to protect. And I remember being quite astounded at that sighting, at the fact that a squirrel would be brave enough to run up and bite a monitor lizard and scratch at a monitor lizard. They're quite fast, and they have a reputation for using that tail as a whip, which you might have seen with that sighting with Kuchava hunting the monitor lizard. They're very good at it. And they are not without defenses. And they've got very sharp teeth. I found it quite amazing that something... There's number 2. There's 2 little babies here. I found it something quite amazing that something the size of a squirrel would be brave enough to tackle a rock monitor that was just under 2 meters or 6 feet. Oh, look at the little 2 of them. Grabbing with their hands and pulling the grass seeds towards them. I don't know if Taylor's squirrel challenge still stands. She challenged us to the best squirrel sighting a while back, a long time ago. It feels like a long time ago. But this is definitely one of them. They're dashing about and playing up in the branches. One is still thoroughly focused on breakfast. I don't suppose you guys have seen any leopards coming through, have you? Will you let me know if you have? Of course you will. Making that alarm call. When they alarm call, they sound like witches cackling. Corey, you want to know what is the oddest animal I've ever seen? Perhaps a 2-headed snake. That's a very good question, Corey. I've never seen a 2-headed snake. In fact, I don't think I've seen many deformed animals or ones with slight growth defects before. What is the oddest animal I've ever seen? I don't know. I mean, pangolin are pretty odd when you look at them. Giraffe are really weird the longer you look at them. But I don't think that's quite what you're asking. Elephants without trunks always look odd, but I'm hesitant to use that as an example, just because that's generally either a crocodile, although that's unlikely, or it's due to human action with a snare around its trunk. So, but an elephant without a trunk, or with half a trunk, does look very, very peculiar. The lioness without a tail is also quite peculiar, the Salala lioness with her stumpy tail. That looks very odd. It makes her look like a breed of dog that we get in South Africa called a boerboel, which is a sort of a mastiff type dog. Very, very bulky dog. That's what she looks like with that stumpy tail. What other peculiar things have I seen? Hyenas with one legs. Again, these are all injuries rather than growth defects. I've seen lots of hyena hopping about on 3 legs. They seem to be absolutely fine. They're like little tripods. Doesn't seem to... Obviously it impacts them, but it doesn't seem to hamper them too much. What's the oddest animal you've ever seen, Craig? I went to Australia. They've got some very odd animals. Look at these francolin playing in the road here. Australia's famous for their peculiar marsupials. I saw a koala and a wombat, a wallaby. I'll tell you what one of the oddest things I ever saw was, speaking of wallabies, I was house sitting when I lived in the UK. I was house sitting in Oxfordshire, and I one day was just sitting in my bedroom looking out at the English countryside, and it was winter. It wasn't quite winter, it was spring, it was March. And all of a sudden a wallaby hopped into the garden, fed a little bit, and then hopped away. And I sat there blinking, thinking, this is not right. It's not an odd animal, it's just an odd place for an animal. And it happened about 3 more times before I finally plucked up the courage to ask somebody, because I honestly thought they would all think I was completely mad or hallucinating. Because the last thing you expect to see in the middle of the English countryside, and I know there's lots of stories of big cats roaming around, and of course Loch Ness monsters and so on, but the last thing I expected to see in the countryside was a wallaby. Turns out there was some kind of a sort of a zoo type place that explained it. Right, I know that Stef seemed to be having some problems with the backpack, but it's up and running once again. Let's head across to him to find out what he's up to.
We are standing next to the road waiting for a new cable, so not too much of a problem. We've managed to isolate the issue, which is always a good thing. When you know exactly what's wrong and you know what fixes it, it's just a matter of a few minutes before we get a new cable. So if we do manage to disappear instantaneously, it's because we've got a connection issue on one of our cables. Not too much of a problem. Don't go anywhere. Don't forget that we are coming to you live from the middle of one of the largest wilderness areas on the planet, and you know, from time to time these things do happen, as I'm sure you're well aware. One thing I am wanting to show you while we can is, you know, we were talking about some flowers a little bit earlier, and this is a grass. Now grasses are probably the most evolved species of plant on the planet. Relatively new, you know, in plant terms, although that still means that they've been around for many hundreds of millions of years. And this particular grass has got its flowers out and all its pollen. Now the blue commelina that we were having a look at a little bit earlier literally just had 2 or 3 male parts, and they were quite large, and therefore the pollen grains are going to be quite large as well. This particular plant has many flowers, and every little bit on there is basically a flower that you can see covered in pollen. And this probably came out last night. And I just want to show you when you bump it. Let's see if we can bump it and watch. See all the pollen? Okay, so watch the dust. Let me do it against my dark shirt. Will that help, Brian? Okay, so watch when I jerk it. You see the pollen coming off? Just dusted with lots of different pollens. There on my shirt you can see there. Not those are the male parts. That smudge there, that's all bits and pieces of pollen. You can imagine this plant has evolved a very whippy stem, and as the wind whips the plant around from side to side and whips it against its friends, you'll see the pollen dusting off. So watch this plant over here, watch the air in this region here, and I will act as wind on this particular plant. See it all dusting off? It's incredible. And that is how the wind then disperses this pollen all over the place, waves it onto the neighbors, the female parts of their flowers. Similar thing to how the commelina fertilized itself. The pollen grain goes down a tube and gets to an ovary, and then basically fertilizes the ovary, which causes a seed to grow. That seed is then dispersed either by wind, water, or animals, and will land on the ground, and if the soil chemistry and the soil type is suitable for that particular grass to germinate, it will germinate, put roots into the soil, and then voila, you have a new grass next year when we get a little bit of rain again. And that's basically how it works with grasses out here. And grasses are one of the most dominant species of plants on the planet, and they've got a bunch of stuff. They are very high in cellulose, very little in terms of offering food value except in volume. I mean, I just want you to have a look at the grass that you can see from here. Count the trees that you can see. You can probably see about 20 trees. Have a look and see if you can count how many grasses are in the same space. I mean, it just defies imagination. You wouldn't be able to count all the different grasses in the same space. That is how dominant grasses are, basically. Something that we take for granted because we actually walk through them all the time. Really nice. Now, James, you've asked an interesting question in that you wanted to know why are some species of plants evolved the way that are pollinated in niche environments. So, in other words, why would a plant attract a certain species of bird or a certain species of bug rather than being a generalist? Why not just leave it to chance, wind or whatever the case may be? Quite simply, James, it's down to competition. So, competition amongst different plants. Even though there's a multitude of insects and a multitude of birds, there isn't possibly enough birds and enough insects to get to every single one of these plants if they were all a generalist and all attracting everything at the same time. So very similar to something that I was reading this morning, funnily enough, on the news. So let's talk about the cell phone market. The market is massive at the moment, but is stagnated. So people are needing to specify. So rather than being just a very good phone, nowadays people are wanting something a little bit different. They're needing a niche product in actual fact. And so now we're getting phones that can fall out of helicopters and can go underwater, and you can wash under a tap and have loud ringtones and big speakers, and you can do editing of photographs on it. And the market is so saturated at the moment and so large that it's big enough, these niche markets, to keep it going, to be profitable. Same thing with plants, exactly the same thing. They've dominated everything, and now they need to become very niche specific in order to stay competitive. And because there's just so much going on, they can afford to invest in being different. So like that Commelina, being something bright and something unique, and it catches the attention of a specific insect or a specific bird that is attracted to that specific thing. And so you get these two animals, or these two organisms, not two animals, these two organisms, the plant and the insect, or the plant and the bird, starting to walk the same path as one another. And they almost become co-evolutionary to a point, and I'll use the fig and the fig wasp in a case in point here, where the fig wouldn't exist if it wasn't pollinated by the fig wasp. The fig wasp wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the fig that allows it to pupate its babies in. So the fig wasp, let's start. It's a chicken and an egg story. I don't quite know where to start here, but let's start with the fig fruit. The fig fruit has a tiny hole at the bottom that's just big enough for the fig wasp. The fig is also attractive to the fig wasp in that it probably smells fantastic to the fig wasp. Fig wasp comes into the bottom of the fig fruit and lays its eggs inside the fig fruit. The eggs hatch and the larvae eat the inside of the fig. They then pupate and become fig wasps, leaving the fig fruit and going to find mates to fertilize their eggs, and then those females will find other fig plants. While the larvae is eating the fig fruit, they are also pollinating the figs. And so the fig goes through a germination process where the fig wasp that has come from another fig, covered in pollen, flies into this fig and basically pollinates this particular fig, and it then goes on to produce the next generation of figs and the next generation of making it attractive for the next generation of fig wasps. And so these two plants, organisms, excuse me, I don't know why I'm confusing that. These two organisms, the fig wasp and the fig itself, are co-evolutionary. They are so tied together that without one, the other one wouldn't exist. And that is exactly how it happens over here. And that's what everything almost strives for, is a partner that they don't need to generally compete for. They just need to attract that one thing, and that one thing is enough. So I hope that answered it. I know it even sounded confusing to me, but in any case, we'll discuss it at length more in months and years to come. All right, why don't we go and have a look at Brent, who's managed to find some impala to show you.
We got some impala on the road. They're looking a bit nervous. Now, these lions have definitely been chased by elephants last night, so where they were is just piles of elephant dung. It looks like the elephants had an all-night lion chasing party, but what that means is they've run. And seeing lions running tracks on this hard ground after the rain is near impossible. So I'm hoping one of these impala or something manages to find them and start snorting for us. So they've got tracks here, but these are from yesterday. I saw the tracks here yesterday. And we've been right into the thickets and still no luck. Remember, hashtag Safari Live or questions at WildEarthTV. Oh, sorry. Hashtag Safari Live only. Don't send us any emails anymore. It's not allowed. Hashtag Safari Live. Or pop a question on the YouTube screen. There's impala. They are looking quite jumpy. Where are the lions, guys? Now, we're looking for lions, and at the moment we're looking at impala, and they might be a bit nervous because they've smelt where the lions were last night. And also, remember, the best way to get your question answered is to try stick with the theme of whatever we're looking at. Or looking for. So they look like they're calming down and moving on. I have no idea where these lions have gone. They've done a disappearing act, like they've got wings. There's one more spot I want to check. That impala suddenly snorted. Have you spotted the lions for us, impala? Have you done my job? Or are you just having funny smells again? Where are they looking? In here. Let's see what these impala get up to next. Are you going to be our lucky herd of impala? So you can see that quite focused. The wind is coming from that direction, so I'm just wondering if they've just picked up some lion scent. Because when they see a lion, they normally snort a lot more vigorously. And the lions have been all over this area over the last 2 days, so picking up a scent is most likely. An impala can be quite jumpy. Well, when everything eats you, I'd also be quite jumpy. Let's go check. and we're staring in here. The wind is coming from sort of a southwesterly direction, so, and the lions were lying in here yesterday, so maybe they're just picking up the smell of lion urine. We've been chatting quite a bit about lions today, and good morning, Omar. Omar would like to know, when did the Atlas or Barbary lion species die out? Well, as I was saying a bit earlier, it wasn't actually a separate species. It was just a local morph of the lions, having that much bigger mane to deal with the desert things. I think there are apparently some still Barbary lions in captivity, but in the wild, probably late 1800s, 1880s, 1890s, they were shot out in the wild. Now, there's more Impala. We've just come through here. Oh dear. I think I might have to go walk through there. I might have to go see if I can get them moving on foot. Go walk through these thickets. Maybe get growled at a bit. Ian, hello Ian. Ian's 10 years old and in Canada. Ian would like to know, would a lion eat a rhino? Now Ian, believe it or not, I've actually seen a lion kill a rhino. It was a young rhino whose mother had died by being stuck in the mud. So yes, they do, but not an adult rhino that's in good health. But they will eat rhino. I've actually seen another case where I saw a lioness jump on a tiny baby rhino, and then mom chased the lion away. So the baby survived. So they can eat rhinos, but it's very, very rare. Oh, there are those snorting Impala that are just snorting at the smell, I'm pretty sure, looking at them at the moment. They came out of where the lions were last night. They're just looking so jumpy. Look at them. Female at the back, very alert, but that's where you've just come from, silly. Okay, I'm going to keep checking this area. I'm going to do another couple of loops here, see if I find some Impala that are actually looking at something and not snorting at smells. Actually, no, now they look... Okay, well, I'm going to go see what these Impala are looking at. Let's go back to Stef on foot while we do that.
You know, if there's one person I think I keep on mentioning from time to time is that if there's one person that you want on your side looking for cats is Mr. Leo Smith. He's definitely very tenacious and very driven and very focused when it comes down to that. So we'll give him a couple of minutes just to unravel the puzzle that is these barking Impala or snorting Impala, and you joining us for a bit of a walk. We are en route, which is why I'm not showing you anything. We're on a bit of a march over here because we are needing to get to the area where we last had Cruller. We've had our cable fixed, it's nice and solid, and so we shouldn't disappear anytime soon again. Now, we are on a road, and it does allow me to talk a little bit about why and how we place roads out here. Generally, the Sabi Sand, where we are at the moment, it's a game reserve attached to the Greater Kruger National Park, and is privately owned land. We're in Djuma Private Game Reserve. All these years that we've been doing safaris, these roads have been put here on the back of where animals move. So the best game viewing roads was where you could view game. Game would be on game paths, generally between a water source and some food, or along a particular area that had, you know, that was of some significance. So through a pass or towards a favorite rubbing post or some mineral deposit. And when people used to visit, which was also generally in our winter time, because, whoa, Look at this. So this, believe it or not, is a lizard. This is a giant legless skink. Have a look at this. These guys generally come out at night. They almost always live in termite mounds where they feed on any number of things, but just have a look at that. Looks like a snake, isn't a snake. It's a skink, and a legless skink at that, virtually blind. I don't want to touch it. It will get disturbed, and they have an alarming, they look alarmed when they do get alarmed. A heavy, robust animal. Just have a look at that. So poses no damage, no threat to me whatsoever. It hasn't got any fangs with which to inject me with any nasty poisons, and can't bite you or I either. But just have a look at the face. You'll see why it's a skink now when you have a look at that face. Eyes underdeveloped, and that's because it spends most of its time in tunnels in the dark. Just one of those animals that is just, you read about it, you know about it, you hardly ever see it. We probably see these giant legless skinks how many times a year? Maybe 2 or 3 times a year in deep summer like this. Now the reason why I'm able to move it with a stick, but I'm not touching it with my hands, is because it's quite common for this animal to go over sticks and for those to be blowing in the wind, and as long as I don't touch him with my hand and he knows that he's being grabbed, he'll carry on acting normally, or she'll carry on acting normally and give us a chance to share some of its day. Quite a disturbing looking animal, I must be honest with you. It's not the most comfortable thing. That big shoe you're seeing there is Brian's size 47. And although comfortable now with it, when you first see these guys, the last thing you want is for it to be climbing up and down on your shoe, or in actual fact on your hand. Let's get him out here again, just into the open. You saw that spade-like tunneling. Look at that. See it pushing its nose into the sand? That's what it does inside termite mounds. Isn't that just the best thing you've ever seen? Quite a powerful looking animal. I'm sure it could probably overcome, I'm not sure exactly what they eat, but they definitely live in termite mounds and underground. I'm almost sure they eat termites and ants, probably a bunch of invertebrates. Being the size that it is now, it's going to be able to overpower a lot of different things. That hard snout. Just really. Now, the difference between this and a snake would be that this has an eye with an eyelid. The snakes don't have eyelids. Snakes also have fangs with venom glands. These skinks don't have that. It will also have vestigial legs, and while not uncommon amongst the pythons and the anacondas, definitely very common amongst the skinks. And then also underneath its belly, you'll see that the scales on its belly and on its dorsal side are very similar to one another. Snakes have different scales on their bottom and their top, their dorsal and their ventral side. There we go, you just caught a glimpse underneath there. Other than that, their diets will be slightly different, but generally speaking, something with a sharp lizard-like face like this and its eyes with its eyelids are what is distinguishing it from a snake. This is the last time I'm going to pick it up. I think after this we'll let it carry on with its day, giving us a nice look at it. something that you quite often see from a vehicle, but like I said, quite often is 2 or 3 times a year. That's about that. And have a look at the size of it. So here's my hand next to it for a size comparison. So easily about 2 feet in length and quite thick. You can see my thumb there is about half the diameter of this particular animal at the moment. Have a look there. Very glossy, and that's because it needs to move underground, and so it needs less, less resistance. Now you notice I didn't snatch my hand away, and that's because I don't want to disturb this animal. If I had jerked my hand away, there was a good chance that I would have disturbed it. So Christine, you've asked me how does the skink react if it's alarmed. What will happen is they start to do this like bunch of jerky movements and will really look quite panicked. And the reason why I don't pick these guys up and look at them with the hands, and haven't done for many years, is because the first time I ever did it, it's exactly what happened, is that it literally looked like it was the most panicked animal on the planet and was going to die right now. And I don't like doing that to animals. I don't enjoy changing the way that they behave just so that we can have a decent look. In this particular case, it's carrying on with its day, having given us enough time to look at it. We're not leaving it in the open so that it gets snatched up by a bird of prey, a snake eagle for instance, martial eagle, even something like a tawny eagle will snatch up this thing in a blink of an eye. So we're letting it carry on back to some cover, and the hope is that it goes into a harvester termite or a macrotermes termite gallery and then lives inside there and basically carries on with its day. So Dominic, you were wondering what these skinks eat. Dominic, that's a very good question. I don't know enough about these particular animals to actually tell you what they eat. I do know they live in termite mounds. It probably means that they feed on termites. I would imagine, being the size that it is, it probably also feeds on a bunch of other invertebrates, insects that live and are hosted inside termite galleries. But why don't you help us, for those of you who are keen on this type of thing, why don't you help us understand what giant legless skinks eat, and you can send your feedback to the hashtag Safari Live and I'll share it with everybody, including myself, Brian and Dominic. We also learned something today. Like I said, you know, I know what it is and I know where it lives, but to be honest with you, the information is sketchy inside this brain of mine. Too many days of being outside, I think. Anyway, why don't we send you over to Brent, who's apparently quite proud of something that he's found for you.
Well, it's taken me long enough, so not so proud as, but slightly less frustrated. But they have been chased around these quarry thickets by the elephants all night. The elephants have been everywhere, and we decided we were going to do one last check. And there we are, 3 lionesses, 6 cubs, and a little bit more in the open than they've been for the last day or so. But nice that they are still on Djuma, the Nkuhuma Pride. Now, I should be getting a little bit hungry today, so maybe in the evening they might get up and start moving. Bit of grooming going on. Let's see if we can get around to where it's a bit more open. Hello, kitty cats. Gave me a hard time this morning. Dave just laughs in the background. I mean, we must have been 30 meters in that direction and we could not see them. Obviously, say this is a very thick area. Whoa, catching cameras. And literally the Impala, can you see them through there, Dave? No, Impala. They're antelope. Ooh, where are they? A little bit to the right. They're through there. Let's just try this a bit. But there's antelope all around them. I mean, literally everywhere around them there are impala. There's impala behind us, there's impala in front of us, impala to the left of us, no more than 100 meters away. But they are in these thickets. Now, who's ready for a little test? Now, we're going to park where we can see the lions nicely. And there we go. In front of the lions is a pretty white flower. Now, I did tell you what its name was on Bushwalk yesterday morning. So who can tell me what flower that is? If you know the answer, hashtag Safari Live or questions at WildEarth. Oh no, hashtag Safari Live. I've got to get used to this now. And there we go. Nkuhumas and a pretty white flower. What's its name? Hashtag Safari Live. So I've just been shouted at by Final Control again, but you can still send emails, but we will be slowing down the email system, and just to try keep all questions coming in on easily accessible platforms. So come on, there we go, a bit of grooming, which means it's time to get up and do something. You've been sleeping for 48 hours, so let's get moving. There's impala everywhere around you. The elephants have gone. There's no need to be worried about being chased by them. I can hear the impala snorting in the background, and they definitely can't see the lions. So those impala were definitely snorting at the smell of them.